Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This is GED Math with Mr. Leo, where we help you make breakthroughs in math. If you're struggling with math, if you've never liked it, if you're afraid of math, or maybe even hate math, you're in the right place. I got you. All right, before we begin, let's make sure we have our supplies. Please, right now, make sure you have your notebook. You're going to need to write this down in your notebook. You can go ahead and pause the video and grab that if you need to. Remember, you have to write this stuff down. Practice makes perfect. If you see me writing, I'd like you to write as well. So make sure you have this and a nice pen or pencil. Today's lesson, we will not need a calculator. Okay, today's lesson is negative numbers, part 1. Let's begin here. Take your notebook and write down a few things. What do you already know about negative numbers? Feel free also to comment in the chat, and I can check it out later on. I'll be responding to all of you. What do you know about negative numbers? Some people might say less than 0. Perhaps you said to the left on the number line. If you know what the number line is, that's great. If you don't, that's also fine. The number line is one way of keeping track of negative numbers, but it's not part of what I'm going to show you today, and it's not necessary for this lesson. What about real life? When do you see negative numbers in real life? Perhaps some of you would say, oh, well, an overdraft at the bank. You might show a negative balance on your account. We know what that means. Okay, good. Anything else? Please answer in the comments if we've missed anything. Now, what about this word? What is an integer? This is our first vocabulary word, integer. Now, you're often going to see this word associated with lessons on negative numbers. So many times if you have a textbook, it might say studying integers, or today's lesson would be multiplying and dividing integers. So what is an integer? We often hear this word used when studying negative numbers, and it's often a signal if you're in a textbook that this lesson is going to cover negative numbers. But let's be very clear with the definition. An integer is a whole number that could be positive or negative. An integer is any whole number that is positive or negative. -5 is an integer, +5 is an integer. But do you know what's not an integer? A fraction or a decimal or a percentage. These things are not integers. An integer must be a whole number. Now, again, it could be negative. That's why we're seeing this word used when we study negative numbers. Negative numbers are one of the most important things we have to learn to pass the GED test. If you're struggling with negatives, if you have confusion, it's going to cause a lot of problems all throughout the material. That covers algebra, functions, word problems, graphs, almost anything. We have to have negatives under control. Now, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is negatives are kind of tricky, and they're one of the hardest things that we're going to have to learn in this course. The good news is I got you. I have the best system in the world for understanding negative numbers. Now, here's the big idea. For negative numbers, there are two sets of rules. There are two separate sets of rules. One set of rules is for multiplying and dividing. This we will study today. The other set of rules is for adding and subtracting. They are different rules for different things. If you mix them up and use the wrong rule in the wrong place, everything is going to be a mess. So it's very important that we learn one set of rules and then move on to the other. Today, we will be studying the rules for multiply and divide. These, in my opinion, are the easier rules. These are the rules that maybe if you asked a regular person on the street, what do you know about negatives? They might be able to tell you these rules. So today, that's all we're going to study, the rules for multiplying and dividing negative numbers. Here we go. These are the rules. Please write this down in your notebook. The more you write things down, the more they're going to stick in your mind, and you'll have something nice you can look at later on. These are the rules for multiplying and dividing. They're the same set of rules. Multiply and divide are opposites of one another, so these rules stand for both. Check this out right here. A positive times a positive is a positive. This is regular math. This is 5 times 2 is 10. All those numbers are positive. A positive times a positive makes a positive. You'll notice I don't use a plus sign or anything here. Any number by default is positive. If you don't see a plus or minus sign, it's going to be a positive. Next, we have positive times negative. Here we could have 5 times negative 2. That is going to make a negative number. That will be negative 10. The way I like to do these is I just multiply the numbers as normal. 5 times 2 is 10. And then I consider the sign. We have one negative sign here on the 2. That one sign is going to move on to the answer. That's how I think about this. For these rules, multiply and divide, it does not matter which number comes first. It does not matter which number is larger. All that matters, if I see a negative sign here in the problem, that negative sign is going to land in the answer. Here's the flip right here. Negative times a positive. What if I have negative 5 times positive 2? Well, it doesn't matter which number's bigger, which one comes first. I see one negative sign here. That negative sign is going to land in my answer. 5 times 2 is 10. Final answer, negative 10. You getting it? Okay. Now, lastly, we have this set, negative times a negative. This is called a double negative. So this could be negative 5 times negative 2. You'll see here we have 2 negative signs. So we're going to multiply the numbers. 5 times 2 is 10, and then consider the signs. The 2 negative signs are going to cancel out and create a positive 10. This is the final answer, a regular positive 10. The 2 signs cancel out. We call this a double negative. Maybe you can think of some examples in your life when 2 negatives make a positive. Do 2 negatives make a positive in life? The true answer is sometimes. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. When multiplying or dividing, they sure do. If you can think of any other examples of when 2 negatives make a positive, please answer in the comments. I'd love to read them. Okay, I want to mention this is all true for division. If I had, let's say, 6 divided by negative 2, can you tell me the answer? Well, 6 divided by 2 is 3. I see one negative sign, so that would make negative 3. What if I had negative 20 divided by 2? Well, 20 divided by 2 is 10. And again, I see one negative sign here, so that 1 is going to land in my answer. This will be negative 10. And let's do a double negative. What if I had, let's say, 12 negative, we'll call that negative 12, divided by negative 2? Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and you'll notice these are both negatives, so the 2 negative signs will cancel out, and we're left with this nice positive answer, 6. Remember, these rules are the same for multiply and divide. Now, before we continue, I'd like to show you a cute way I have to remember this stuff. Some people might find this corny, but I've had a lot of students enjoy it, so I want to give it to you here. Let's say love is positive and hate is negative. So what if you love to love? What kind of person loves to love? What kind of person loves to love? That's a lover. What about positive times a negative? What kind of person loves to hate? Can you think about this? Do you know anyone like this in your life? Someone who loves to hate? What's that? That's a hater. Okay, let's reverse it. What about someone who hates to love? What does that mean if you hate to love? Oh, these people over here kissing and being happy, I can't stand it. Oh, look at these people over here having a good life. Oh, it makes me so mad. Someone who hates to love is also a hater. Yes, but what about this? What about the double negative? What about someone who hates to hate? What does that mean if you hate to hate? Oh, I can't stand hate in the world. It bothers me so much when I see people mistreating each other and being nasty to one another. I can't stand it. I hate to hate. Well, that means in your heart, you're a lover. This is a double negative. If you hate to hate, you're a lover. Please take a moment, write this down in your notes. We're going to reference this all the time. Remember, this is only for multiply and divide. Okay, let's do these together right here. -5 times -4. I see two negative signs. Those are going to cancel out, making a positive. What's the answer? This will be positive 20. Let's go down the page. Our next one is -5 times -5. Will this be positive or negative? That's right. It's positive because it's a double negative. If you hate to hate, you're a lover. 5 times 5 is 25. Final answer here, positive 25. Just like the first one. If you hate to hate, you're a lover. Next one here, -9 times 5. I see one negative sign. That's going to go in the answer. 9 times 5 is what? 45. Final answer, -45. Now, you might notice the parentheses here. In this case, these parentheses are just here to stay organized to make things look a little easier. I could remove all the parentheses from this page and the math would be the same. You're going to see this both ways when you take the GED test. Okay, next one. I see one negative sign. We put it over here. 9 times 3, what's that? 27. Final answer, -27. Up next, -6 times 9. That's one negative sign. Let's put it in the answer. 6 times 9 is 54. Final answer, -54. Down at the bottom, can you tell me this one? That's right. The two signs will cancel out, leaving a positive 9 as the answer. Next, 7 times 8, both negative. Well, the two signs will cancel out. If you hate to hate, you're a lover. 7 times 8 is 56. That's our final answer. Next one here, I see one negative sign. That's if you hate to love, you're a hater. That's going to be negative. 5 times 4 makes 20. Here again, one negative sign in the problem. That's going to land in the answer. 3 times 5 is 15. Final answer, -15. If you hate to love, you're a hater. Okay, down here, this is if you love to hate. What are you? A hater. Okay, 9 times 3 is 27. Final answer here, -27. Next one, I see one negative sign. That's going to go in the answer. 5 times 2 is 10. Final answer, -10. Lastly, we have another double negative. Those two negative signs will cancel out, leaving a positive answer, +4. Did you write those down in your notebook? The more you write it down, the more it's going to stick. Okay, how's it feeling? You starting to understand? You getting them right? Please, if you're enjoying what you're hearing and you're enjoying this lesson, consider sending this video to someone who you think would get something from it. It's word of mouth recommendations like that that help keep our channel growing. Thanks for your support. Here we are, this next page. You'll see we have some divisions here. Now again, the rules are the same. Right here we have 18 divided by -6. It doesn't matter which number is bigger. It doesn't matter which one comes first. I see one negative sign. It's going to land in the answer. What's 18 divided by 6? That's going to be 3. Final answer, -3. Moving down the page, we have 8 times -1. 8 times 1 is 8. Make sure you bring over that single negative sign. Next one, we have a double negative. What's that make? That's a positive. 2 times 9 is 18. The two negatives cancel out. Next up, 16 divided by -2. The two negatives will cancel out. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Final answer, +8. Two negatives make a positive when multiplying or dividing. Here we have -5 divided by 5. That's kind of interesting. Well, I see one negative sign, so let's use that. And keep this in mind. Any number divided by itself makes 1. 5 divided by 5, well, how many 5s go into 5? It goes in one time. Final answer, -1 because of the negative sign. Here we have 1 times -9. Good job, that's just going to be -9. Moving up, -7 divided by -1. Well, the negatives will cancel out. That's a positive. And 7 divided by 1, what does that mean? Any number divided by 1 is itself. So 7 divided by 1 is still 7. And again, the two negatives cancel out. We have a +7. Moving on, -8 times -3. The two negatives cancel out. We're going to be left with a +24. Are you writing these down in your notebook? Make sure you're writing these down. Next up, negative 16 divided by 4. You'll notice there's no parenthesis here. That doesn't change anything. This first number is considered negative. The second is positive. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. If you hate to love, you're a hater. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Final answer, negative 4. Here we have a multiplication with a double negative. The two negatives cancel out. It will be positive. 5 times 7 is 35. Final answer. Next, we have a division with a double negative. The two negatives, again, cancel out. It's going to be positive 8. Final answer. How you doing with your times tables? We'll talk about those more later. Here we have negative 3 times 7. That's going to be a single negative sign in the answer. 3 times 7 is 21. Negative 21, final answer. Good job so far. How you feeling? Any questions? Please put them in the comments. Okay, here's another page. Please pause the video, work these out on your own, and we'll check in just a moment. All right, go ahead, pause the video and work out these problems. Answers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First one is negative 9. Did you get that? A single negative. Next one is negative 45. We've got positive 27. That's the double negative. Here we've got negative 6. Here we've got negative 1. 8 divided by 8 is 1. The negative sign carries into the answer. Here we've got a positive 9. Up to the top, if you can see it, 16 divided by negative 8 is negative 2. 16 divided by negative 8 is negative 2. Over here we have negative 10. Moving down, we have negative 9. 81 divided by negative 9 is another negative 9. 56 divided by negative 8 is negative 7. We've got negative 3 times 1, that's negative 3. And lastly, negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. Did you get those right? Good job. Let's take it a little further. All right, let's do this again. Go ahead and pause your screen and work out these problems. Pause the video and work these out. Okay, did you get them? Answers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First one, negative 40. Moving down the page, negative 16, negative 8, positive 54, positive 1, negative 5, negative 2 up at the top of the page, negative 8, positive 5, negative 5, 4, and negative 8. How was it? Did you get those right? Is this feeling pretty good? Let's go a little further. How about these? These look a little hard. Let's model a few of these while we go. So here we have a 2-digit number times negative 5. All the negative rules are currently in play. So tell me immediately, this first question up here, will our answer be positive or negative? That's right, it will be negative because there's one negative sign. Doesn't matter which number it's on when we're multiplying or dividing. So let's review this kind of multiplication while we're here. We're going to start with this number 5, and we're going to multiply with each digit starting at the top right. 5 times 7 is 35. I'll put the 5 here and carry the 3. Do you remember this? Now what do? 5 times 6, that is 30. Add the 3, that's 33. Put the 33 here. And lastly, bring down that negative sign. One negative makes our final answer negative. This is negative 335. Let's do another one. This next one is a double negative. What's the answer going to be? Positive or negative? That's right. It's going to be positive because both numbers are negative and they cancel out. If you hate to hate, you're a lover. So let's multiply here. 7 times the 5 is 35. We put the 5 here and carry the 3. Now we do 7 times the other digit. 7 times 9, that's a tough one. That's 63. Add the 3, that makes 66. Final answer is positive, leave it alone. If you want, pause the video here and work these out on your paper. Okay, answers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Final answer, negative 126. 7 times 5 is 35. Carry the 3. 7 times 5 is 35. Add the 3. That's 38. Final answer is going to be positive 385. Next one. 9 times 8 is 72. Carry the 7. 2 times 9 is 18. Add the 7. That's 25. Final answer, negative 252. Moving down. 9 times 6 is 54. Carry the 5. 9 times 4 is 36. Add the 5. That's 41. Final answer is negative. Next one, 6 times 8, that's 48. Carry the 4. 9 times 6 is 54. Add the 4, that's going to be 58. Final answer, negative 588. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 2 is 14. Add the 1, that's going to be 154. Final answer makes it negative 154. 6 times 8 is 48. Carry the 4. 1 times 6 is 6. Add the 4. That's 10. This is a double negative. Final answer, 108. Positive. Last one. 7 times 9 is 63. Carry the 6. 7 times 5 is 35. Add the 6. That's 41. Bring down the negative sign. Final answer, negative 413. Those were a little bit tricky. If you're having problems with that, it's okay. For now, the fundamental thing is that you understand the negative rules. If you had to use some calculators here, that's all right for now. Let's focus on one thing at a time. Okay, let's summarize here. What have we learned so far? What are the rules? Remember, if you love to love, you're a lover. If you love to hate, you're a hater. If you hate to love, you're also a hater. But if you hate to hate, the double negative, that makes you a lover. Do you have that written down in your notes? Okay. Remember our vocabulary, an integer. This is a whole number that is positive or negative. So far, we've only been working with integers. I did not see any decimal. I did not see any fractions. Those are not integers. We've been working with whole numbers, positive and negative. So we've been working with integers. You might see this word associated with negative numbers in your textbooks and in your lessons. So keep this in mind. What if we multiply 3 or more integers? What if I have this? Negative 2 times negative 1 times negative 3. What about this? Is this going to be positive or negative? In this case, the answer is negative. Why? Because every pair of negative signs cancels out. If you look closely, there are 3 negative signs total. 2 of them are going to cancel out, and the last one is going to land in your answer. Let me show you. Let me break it down. Just focus on the first 2 numbers. What's negative 2 times negative 1? Well, that's a double negative. That makes positive 2. 2 times 1 is 2, and the negatives cancel out. Then I'll bring down the next part. So now I have 2 times negative 3. This is a single negative, which will land in our answer. Final answer, negative 6. That's the long way to do it. Feel free to do it that way. But if you want the shortcut, we could go back to the beginning and say, just multiply all the numbers. 2 times 1 is 2, times 3 is 6. Now look at the signs. The 2 negatives, the first 2 negatives cancel out. The third one remains and lands on the answer. Good job. Now, what about 0? 0 is neither negative or positive. 0 is neither negative nor positive. 0 is neutral. Put this in your notes. 0 is neither negative nor positive. It's neutral. So this might come up sometimes. Let's say I have negative 5 times 0. What's that going to be? Well, 5 times 0 is 0. Anything times 0 is 0. But according to the rules we've studied, I should put the negative sign on that answer. So I should write negative 0. Now, technically that's correct, but really you're never going to see it this way because 0 is a special number. 0 is neutral, neither negative or positive. So if this ever happens, don't give your answer as negative 0. Just change your answer to a simple neutral 0. You got it? Good. Okay, let's practice right here. Maybe you can see the answer right away. I'm going to do it the long way just to be sure. Start with just the first two numbers. -1 times -4, that's a double negative, making +4. Bring down the next one. Bring down the -5. Now we have 4 times -5. That's going to leave us a final answer, -20. Okay, the next one right here, we have -2 times -3 on the left. That's going to make a +6. Bring down the times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. You might ask about the parentheses here. They're just here to stay organized. This would be the same thing if there were no parentheses. Next one right here. Let's count the negative signs. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 negative signs. What's that going to mean altogether? Well, every pair of negatives will cancel out. So the first two will cancel, and the last two will cancel. This is going to make a final answer that's positive. Let's go step by step. -2 times -5 is 10. Bring down the multiply sign. Let's do these ones. That's also 10. 10 times 10 is 100. This whole thing simplifies to 100. 2 times 5 times 2 times 5 is 100, and all four negatives cancel out. Now, what if there was one more negative sign? That would pull this back to negative. Okay, how about this one? 10 times -3, that's -30, times 0. Anything times 0 is what? 0. And that is neither positive nor negative. The negative sign would go on the answer, but because it's 0, we leave it alone. Neutral, 0. All right, how about this last one? I see a whole lot of -1s multiplying. Well, 1 times itself is always going to be 1. So just tell me, will this be positive or negative? Every pair of negatives will cancel. The first two will cancel out, the next two will cancel out, and the next two will cancel out. All the negatives will cancel, leaving +1. But what if there was one more? What if I had one more negative sign here? What if I had, let's say we made it times -1 one more time? Well, now we have 7 negative signs. These two will cancel, these two will cancel, these two will cancel, but the last one will land in the answer. Then it would be -1. Do you get it? If that's a little weird to you, that's okay for now, as long as we have the basic rules. All right, so this has been our lesson on multiplying and dividing negative numbers, which is part 1. Next time, we're going to look at the other set of rules, adding and subtracting. Today's rules just covered multiply and divide. How do you feel? Is it making sense? Do you love to love? Are you a lover? Or maybe you're still a little bit of a math hater. Well, don't worry. Stick with me, GED Math with Mr. Leo, New York style, and I got you. Don't worry about it. Stick with me. Keep your notebook full. Write everything down, and we're going to make great progress and get that GED. Before you sign off, I'm going to put one more page of problems up, and it's for you to answer. If you get these right, you're good to go. All right, this is your exit ticket. Pause the video right now and do all of these in your notebook. If you get these right, you're in great shape. Answers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job, everybody. I'll see you next time for part 2 of this lesson.